everyone. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Um, Welcome to this course. And also, I'm really excited to share with you my passion for poetry and that we can explore together in these workshops a large number of themes and poets and also styles that you can write in. And to develop, most important of all, to develop your own your own work, things that you'll be proud of. First of all, I think it's important for us to think about, what's a good poem, and also, why do we need to, work together? Why do we need to um, put in the effort to make a good poem? I quite agree with Robert Frost's saying that a poem begins with a lump in your throat, a sense of wrong or homesickness, a love sickness, for example. So it's all these sort of unresolved feelings in you, things that you want to articulate, and you need to translate it somehow onto the page to share it with other people, to release it from inside you. And I don't think it's that hard to have that sort of moment of inspiration, but to actually put it together into a beautiful poem takes some effort and takes some thinking and some process behind. And I think that is the magical part where we can work together, um, you know, in workshops, in creative writing workshops. It will sort of give you the atmosphere to kind of unleash the creative energy in you and to find the language and voice that is really so special and unique about your own work. Um, for example, I'm a big fan of T.S. Eliot's work. If you think about, let's say, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, in in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Um, I'm a big fan of J. Alfred Prufrock. So, this T.S. Eliot's famous poem talks about how this middle-aged man, how he is hesitating in terms of expressing his love um, for his lover. And for example, one of the lines, in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. I thought it's just so natural, and at the same time it seems to contain so much, and you don't you can't never you can't even pin down what it is, but at the same time it's rich, it's poetic, it's metaphorical, and it helps with the overall poem. And I think that's what poetry is about. It's about like holding on to ideas. It's kind of like a container, keeping some kind of fluid inside that you can it can be a very beautiful thing to capture that moment of discovery. um, and also another element of a very good poem, I think, is also the image. That very often it has a very refreshing image, things that you kind of allows you to see the world in a different way, or to see some really everyday object or ordinary object in a very different way, things that would change people's perspectives. Just as an example, I think William Carlos Williams, the kind of just to say, this is just to say that I've eaten the plums in the icebox, which was so cold, so cold, and so fresh. And that is like, again, it's such a condensed and distilled image, so full of life and so full of personality as well in terms of the voice, that you can't forget it once it lodges in your mind. So I would say overall, a good poem is something that will leave you thinking. And most remarkably, it's sometimes not really the number of lines. It's not how long the poem is that makes it special. It's how condensed it is, how full of things, how full of life, and how full of thoughts it is. Um, and 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 as to what style or what form, or how do you break up the lines, or how do you split up the stanzas, whether it should be a prose poem or not a prose poem, whether it should be a sonnet or not. Sometimes all these creative decisions depend on that single idea that you have and how the poem will pan out. And I think in these workshops, what we're going to do is to look at a lot of very good, very good poets to see how they will actually do this, how they are going to decide, and to learn from them, and at the same time see how their poetic lines can inspire your own work, your own storytelling, for example, and to create poems that will leave people thinking a lot uh, right after they have read it. And sometimes also a good poem will make you want to engage and rethink, or reread many times to get the most out of it. So um, in terms of how you can improve writing, for example, I have a few things to share. Um, First of all, I think it's really important to create space for yourselves. Space, by space, I mean the sort of mental space, physical space, and also time to for yourself to develop your work. Because although writing is a hobby and it's just such an important and therapeutic activity, it is also work. Um, it is something that you really need to sit down. I still remember people saying like J.K. Rowling, like she said that although she has like all these Harry Potter books out there, she still need to sit down and write and do the good work. It's not going to come to her in a day or in an hour. So I think what will really benefit a writer is to have that moment or physical space where you can retreat into to create your own thing. Um, and so, by all means, think of ways to kind of plan that space, plan that time, or plan that room. Fill it with really beautiful things that inspire you, make it cozy, choose a right time. Like, are you more creative in the day or at night? Um, how do you make yourself feel refreshed? For example, very often I will need my coffee. I need a very good coffee to wake myself up and to think about things. And also, like, sometimes kind of plan about what you read, to kind of help you engage with certain themes. And for example, I always try to, bring books around me, so read so that I can kind of get more ideas from other poetry collections or pamphlets. So reading is very important to improve your writing. It doesn't matter what kind of poets you um, love, or what sort of writing. Everyone is different, but the thing is really try to know yourself and try to find out what you care about, the themes that you care about, and the styles that you enjoy reading. And so, by kind of going through um, pamphlets or poetry collections, or also anthologies, sometimes they're very useful, and you can easily find these. Sometimes you can also find certain poems online in poetry magazines that are online, or anthologies that are online. Um, and some poetry foundation or poetry library website, you've got lots of really available resources to look at. And of course, to buy books from poets, and borrow books from library to kind of enrich your understanding about what poetry is. Um, and another thing is also pause. I think it's really important to sometimes pause, have a moment to sort of, after you have written something, like a very rough draft of your work, a few poetic lines, a story, whatever, um, try to sit back and let it be and go and do something else. Um, have some coffee, have some lunch, or go for a walk, do something else and have a bath. And the next day, or even the same day, another hour, or another week even. So just try to come back to the same piece of writing with a new perspective, or with a refreshed mind, with an open mind, and try to really look at it and see what you have created, and look at it again carefully, line by line, to see, or word by word, to see whether everything makes sense. Does it hold together? Is it really cohesive? And also, is there anything that you can take out without shaking the whole structure, without um, you know destroying anything in it? Is there anything that is the most important in your poem? And sometimes it's not obvious, but sometimes you will discover it after a few times of like going away, pause, and then coming back to it. You will discover what you're trying to write, and that is the precious part, like nailing it down and hoping, keeping it and shaping it so that it becomes like something that is really special, and also something that the reader can understand, that it can kind of give them, some sort of emotional response. Um, and I would say also a very important element to improve writing is an open mind, is to be able to receive feedbacks that you have in workshops to, improve your work, um, to have the readiness, that to understand that your poem will undergo several revisions, that your poem is not static, it's not like something that you have written, once and that's it. It is something that it will grow eventually. It's almost like a little pet, or it's also a bit like a painter, how a painter will paint. It will emerge eventually, and you need to trust that. So I think trusting is also very important. If you set out to write a poem about, let's say, a view from your house or your home, maybe at the beginning you thought that view is just about a car outside your window, um, but as you write, as you continue, and as you shape it, maybe it's about something else. Maybe it's more about a person that you remember in association with this view, or like a friendship maybe that is connected to this picture. And then you have to allow it to come through. You have to allow it. Maybe it has to do with a certain memory that is almost subconscious. And you have to let it in, and you have to welcome the new elements that come into this poem. Um, or maybe like you have written a poem that is, 20 lines, and you eventually feel that maybe 10 lines will have to be deleted to make the poem better. And you have to trust it. You have to trust that those 10 lines can go away, and still your poem will be even better than before. So I would say, like, it's almost like gardening in some sense for those of you who like flowers and plants, growing it, giving it water, like making sure that it's growing the right way, and having the nutrients and the sunlight, um, and to have that patience to wait for the outcome, to wait for it to grow. So I would say that poetry is a fascinating thing. And that's why I think it's in these workshops, I enjoy working with people. I think it's just like a way of creating space for yourself to allow you to really enjoy writing in the company of other people who also do that, and to have that similar understanding about storytelling, about creative work, that we can, like, for a moment, it's like stepping away from all your responsibilities, your professional roles, um, your other concerns or preoccupations and everyday life, and just try to really immerse yourself in that creative atmosphere, to try to soak up all these beautiful lines from different poems, Um, so I think it is a beautiful um, time that you can carve out for yourself, and to, you know, let your inner voice really um, come out, like let your inner voice really guide you to create that work. And I think all those feedback sessions in these workshops are very precious, discoveries about this poetic voice in you and this style of writing in you. And what's really lovely is that once you have acquired it, it doesn't go away. So it's kind of like learning how to cycle or swim or drive. It's a skill that once you have got, for yourself, once you can recognize that strength in you, or how you look at poems, how you appreciate and write them, it's a skill that will stay with you all your life. I think that's quite wonderful.